Hey guys, how you doing? I want to talk about sleep today. Very important. Haven't touched on it yet. I just came back from my walk. I did 3.5 kilometers. That's like 2 miles. It was great. It's hot out here. The summer is here. I'm drenched in sweat, and I'm putting one foot in front of the other. Continuing step by step to recover. Just doing more and more, bit by bit, taking a break when I need to, and just continuing the process. Every day, boom, boom, every week. So let's get to sleep. Somebody asked about sleep and have I applied this approach to sleep? And yes, I have. And yes, it helped. And it's basically the same thing. But first, I want to touch on stuff that you probably already know. Well, first of all, chances are you're struggling with sleep. All right. Chances are you're having trouble falling asleep. You're not sleeping through the night. You're waking up throughout. Sometimes you can't fall back asleep at all or for a couple of hours, and you wake up feeling unrefreshed. So these are the issues that I've experienced, all of them, and a lot of you are also dealing with. And I believe this can all be helped a lot or completely even taken care of with this approach. But first, I want to touch on, if you're not already doing it, just the general sleep hygiene stuff. Like, you can Google that stuff. It's stuff like, winding down before bed. Like, don't get yourself riled up. Don't watch the news, where they, especially with everything going on in the world right now, right before going to bed, stuff like that. Uh, dim your lights. Try to create conditions in your room that are sort of not too hot, not too cold. Comfortable. Try to you only use your bedroom, if this helps you, like the bed that you sleep in, only for sleep and sex. And like, don't use it, don't watch TV in it, don't do other stuff in it, because that could create an association. uh, Avoid bright light, and like on devices nowadays, they have a lot of them, they turn the light spectrum towards the warmer orange, red, away from the blue, which is the daytime light. uh, so things like that, you can Google that stuff. That's not specific to this channel, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Google like sleep hygiene or tips for sleep. The one big one though, if you drink alcohol, try not to drink alcohol, like say after 7 p.m. or just at night. It does help you get to sleep, but it really destroys the quality of your sleep. It really affects things. So that's my opinion. I'm quite sure about the alcohol part, but I understand some people like to drink. Personally, I don't really drink anymore at all. Just kind of lost interest for whatever reason. It's not a moral issue for me at all. I never really had a problem with it like that, or like to the point of alcoholism or anything like that. But it was just like, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So, what about my sleep? What's my sleep been like, and what have I done to improve my sleep using this approach? So, yeah, actually, the very first sign that I remember having that something is not right, was when I started waking up unrefreshed. That was like, I think, the very first symptom that I developed. And I went to the doctor. I said, Doc, I don't know. I go to sleep, I wake up, but it's like I didn't go to sleep. It's like I didn't sleep. What's going on here? So he sent me to do a sleep study, which, by the way, you should also consider doing, because if you got to rule out any sleep disorders. So it's unlikely, but it depends. I mean, right now, of course, times are tough. I don't know like how feasible it is, and if you want to take the risk, whatever the amount of risk is, of going into a facility or whatever, and if you have the opportunity. But he sent me to do a sleep study, and it's this thing where you go to a facility overnight. When you go to bed, they put a bunch of like electrodes on your head, and you go to sleep like that. And it's not the most comfortable sleep you'll ever get. And that night, I felt like I hardly slept at all. But then the report came back basically normal. Meaning I don't have sleep apnea, which is a sleep condition. I don't have narcolepsy and other things. There are other sleep conditions. I'm not a sleep specialist. I have no idea what other things there could be, but basically the report came back normal. So that does not mean that I sleep well and I wake up refreshed. That's not what they were saying. It just means they ruled out all of these sleep conditions. that have, definitions that can be detected with these studies. So that's all that means. And so you might want to consider that. So I went through that, and everything was ruled out, and he just kind of shrugged and said, I don't know, the doctor. So I just continued waking up unrefreshed, and over time I started worrying about my sleep because, like, I don't know what's going on. The doctors are not, they're shrugging, or they're just looking at me like, come on, bro, like, nobody sleeps well or something, whatever, just like dismissive. That was the attitude, dismissive, like, what do you want me to do? But I was concerned. I wanted to feel good, so I started worrying about my sleep more and more, and that didn't help matters, of course. So every morning, I got into a habit in the morning checking, okay, how am I feeling? Did I sleep well? Am I refreshed? Well, no, I'm not refreshed, and it became like it started snowballing into this thing where I was always concerned about my sleep. I was always paying attention. Am I falling asleep? Is my sleep good? Whatever. And it just made things worse over time, bit by bit. And then other symptoms appeared, and things started developing from there, getting worse and worse and worse over many, many years, until eventually I got to the point where I was not sleeping at all through the night. That's what it felt like. I think technically, if you had studied it, what I was getting was like micro sleeps. My sleep was really fragmented, like extremely fragmented. I felt awake through the night, right? But what really happens in those situations is you go to sleep for, like, I don't know, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever, very short period of time, and it's very light sleep. It's not the deep restorative sleep. So you feel like you're not really sleeping. It feels like, like those stages when you're first falling asleep, when you're drifting off. It's like you just get into that and then you come out. You get into that and you come out. And in the morning, I felt like a disaster, man. Now, this is me at my worst. I've talked about this. This is when I was completely bedbound. There was a lot more going on in terms of symptoms, like tremendous pain and fatigue and everything, and light and sound sensitivity. I was in a mask. I had my ears, filled with earplugs. So that's the bottom. That's rock bottom for me in terms of sleep and everything else. Actually, at that time. And from there, it improved a bit. And then finally, when I started applying this approach that we focus on this channel, things have improved. I'm not too, like, getting restorative sleep right now. When I wake up, I still feel like, it could have been better, whatever it is. But I don't react to it the same way. I know it's just a matter of time and just letting it go and working on the other things. So I just applied that same approach. Poor sleep, it's another symptom like pain or fatigue. And just like I sort of say, okay, it's very unpleasant. I wish it wasn't like that, but it's not a sign that I'm broken. It's not something that cannot be repaired. And in fact, focusing on it and worrying about it is counterproductive. The thing to do is to focus on the other things that are underlying these issues, like all that tension, all that perfectionism it creates. Uh, so um, so I started when I would go to bed. In the past, I would be okay, going to bed, gotta fall asleep. I hope I fall asleep quickly, uh, and I hope I don't wake up throughout the night. Whew. It was like I was in that state. How can you fall asleep when you're in that state? Now, getting out of that state, it didn't happen like that, because it's a constant struggle, right? Because the anxiety is coming up and it's going, oh, are you going to sleep? Okay, man. Another, you really need to get some sleep. In your conscious mind, you're saying, hey, it's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Just whatever happens, happens, and do your best. So that was the one thing, was that I stopped worrying so much slowly over a period of months. This is a process. And some days I was really a lot more worried, and other days I was doing a lot better with this. It was a gradual process, but I stopped worrying about, like, am I going to fall asleep? Is it going to be okay? Uh, Now when I go to sleep, I still may not sleep great. Like, it's much better. It's much, much better. But I don't worry about how it's gonna go. I just go to sleep, and I just go to sleep. And if I can't sleep, all right. Uh, and I stopped worrying about, because the other thing that was on my mind was always, well, if you don't sleep well, then the next day you're gonna feel like shit. And that's a self-reinforcing thing. Yes, you're not gonna be feeling as well if you don't get good sleep, but I was catastrophizing it to the point where uh, it made it so much worse, you know? It made it even worse than it would otherwise be. And in fact, I learned over time that, you lose 10, 20% the next day if you don't sleep well, maybe 30%, and then you go back to normal. And yeah, you're not the same, but you can live through it. It's okay, and you just gotta allow it, and bit by bit, it's gonna fix. So what started happening is um, I would start falling asleep normally, like quickly. Uh, Except some days I would still have like lots of anxiety come up at night, and for a few hours I just can't fall asleep, like because of all this anxiety. Sometimes for 3, 4, 5 hours. But those nights got more and more rare to the point where I don't remember the last night that was like that. I don't remember. Actually, as I'm telling you this now, I'm remembering that, oh, that used to happen. But now I don't remember because it doesn't happen anymore. It could still happen, and okay, no big deal. It happens. It happens. Stuff happens. You're worried about something in the back of your mind, and it happens. So those were the two things: is to stop worrying about sleep, about falling asleep, and to help with that, realizing that even if you don't sleep through the whole night, the next day you're not going to feel great, but you're going to be able to function. You might have to make an adjustment, and it's okay. And if you just let it go as much as you can, bit by bit, every night, things will improve. With this approach, things will improve. The other issue is waking up in the middle of the night. Um, so, same approach. Same approach. I used to wake up in the middle of the night in pain or just something with anxiety, and I didn't know what to do. And I would just be more, and I would worry myself even more, in the middle of the night, and that would again stop me from falling back asleep. And I would be worried about, well, how am I going to feel tomorrow? Just gotta let it go the best you can every night. You practice it, and it'll snowball in the opposite direction, so to speak. If you can picture a snowball rolling uphill, and losing, decreasing in volume, like that's what can happen bit by bit. But some days, some weeks, it'll roll back down the hill, and then you'll be able to roll it back up the hill, and improve your sleep. So where I am now is that, I still have a fair bit of anxiety about stuff, much, much improved, but also I have my perfectionistic tendencies, which I've discussed here before, and those things, they do interfere with sleep, but not to the same extent. And I'm pretty confident that as I take care of that, as I reduce my anxieties and just restructure my psyche, how I approach the world, how I relate to work, what does it mean to, like, as I realize more and more that I'm okay, meaning I'm, I don't have to achieve constantly to value myself and things of this nature, and just sort of generally understand my psyche and come down to earth a bit more, sort of get in touch with myself, let go of the shoes, stop being so driven. That's a process that really, really takes time and effort. And I'm pretty sure that as that continues, my sleep will get better because I'm not going to be so tense, at night. And at night, when you go to sleep, your conscious mind goes to sleep, so you can't deal with those things, and the unconscious mind kind of comes to surface, and so that other part of you that starts to dominate a bit more, I think, at night. That's what it feels like, at least. Uh, and during the day, what you're doing is you're sort of dripping down into the unconscious these messages and helping it restructure itself. And I feel it's going to get to a point where deep down I will have changed, you know? So this stuff will be much, much, much reduced, and I'm not going to be always tense at night, and God knows what's going on down there, you know? But like, what is the brain worried about? Is it worried about personal safety, or is it worried about achievement? You know, whatever. So I think you get what I'm saying, right? Is that over time you fundamentally change, and those things don't happen. So I think that's long enough. The main point I want you to take away is that yes, applying this approach to sleep will help you. Uh, you might also want to consider sleep hygiene, and maybe even getting a sleep study done if you suspect, like if you're really overweight, that you could have obstructive sleep apnea, and consult your doctor. I'm not a doctor. So yeah, I hope this helps. See you next time. Peace.